Without further ado, I met James Mooney through my radio show. He is affiliated with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. L.E.A.P is the acronym for that organization. Officer Mooney he was a very successful undercover narcotics officer here in Utah for a number of years. And so he was in deep on the other side, and from the little I know about you from our discussion on the air, he had a bit of an epiphany about his role in the effect of other people's lives, and here he is. He's flipped 100%. And so I think this is an important lesson. I think Willie kind of touched on it. This is why I've invited, thanks to Mark helping out, invited people like Move to Amend, all this. We have to be the party of inclusion in my mind. I think that liberty is ultimately about tolerance, and it's ultimately about responsibility. And I think that we have to understand that there are going to be other law enforcement officers right now that are waiting for an epiphany, and if we're not a-holes to them, we might actually help them wake up and start to get on the side of respect for other people and for their lives, and not torturing people like the Dodgers who've done nothing wrong, and they're all fully formed adult human beings making decisions for their own lives. So I think that if anything, the message that we take away today, I'm hoping it is about this inclusiveness. The thing about libertarians is we do love to split hairs, and that's great, but that should not. We have to be careful, because the powers that be understand Machiavellian divide and conquer, and they play into that, and they'll feed into it, and then we're all completely impotent. Our power comes from, sure, we can have our disagreements, but we're all in this for liberty ultimately. That has to come first. And then we could split hairs and all that, and that could be the fun coffee shop stuff. So anyway, without further ado, I'd like to welcome Officer James Mooney. He's been very gracious today, not only come to speak to us, but he's going to give his speech. Now, I have no idea what you're going to talk about, but he's going to speak. And then he's willing to hang out afterwards and answer any questions you might have, not only from, obviously, the speech, but I'm sure you're open to law enforcement questions, things of that nature. So without further ado, Officer James Mooney, if you just speak right here, or you want that?
Yeah. Is it okay if I...
if you can, get on this side, only because we're broadcasting it out to people.
Okay.
I mean, you can move around, but so people...
I want to say this is not something I had thought I would be confronted with. And what I'm being confronted with is a whole bunch of courageous human beings that I had no idea was actually blossoming. I had very little understanding of libertarianism, as your political affiliation is. I've got a fun life, okay? And it's like many of you, and I see some people in here that could even be my elders, and as I know they are. And then I have some people that are about the same age I am, and a lot of people that are younger. And I'm standing up here with long hair, admitting I'm an American Native Medicine Man. Whereas if I had admitted that as early as 50 years ago, I would be thrown in jail in many states. Less than 100 years ago, if I told you that I was a Seminole, you could kill me and get $500. You took my head and submitted. That was the policy of the United States government towards Indians. Now, I just happened to be a medicine man because my grandparents, when I was 4 years old, in secret, dedicated me to become a medicine man as an adult. Not saying you are a medicine person, but saying you have been blessed by your culture to take on that position. Now, I didn't even know about that because it happened to me when I was 3 years old. And I had no idea. And I happened to move away from my grandparents, which was a common thing of taking Indians out of their families and getting them so that they would be compatible to society and put down their evil ways of doing things. And so I spent my life up to 43 years of age not even knowing I was an Indian until I got a telephone call. Now, when I got this telephone call, this is after I spent 20 years as a very, and I don't mean to be braggart about it, I just stating a fact. I was a very successful international business consultant, where all I thought about in my life was bottom line. And businesses, to be frank with you, are the easiest people to sell to. Because all you have to do is prove two things. Can you assist them to make more money or save money? That's all you have to do. Easy closing. Easy. And so, since one teacher one time, when I was just a young kid in grade school, says, you know, James, you are just, you know, you're the laziest person I've ever met, and God bless you because you find easy ways of doing things. And so being a business consultant just fit right in with me. And so I went to a place where I was just, everything was about money. Everything. You know, you do this, be nice to people, not because it's the ethical thing to do, but because that's the most profitable way of doing things. Just like our marriage just talked about. Be nice, you know, because that's profitable. But it had no principles to it, none. And then I'm extremely ill. Extremely ill. I have bipolar manic depression. 1,800 milligrams of lithium a day. Been hospitalized 4 or 5, 6, 7 times. I spent thousands, or literally thousands upon thousands of dollars for a solution. And totally failed. I just got worse. I'm on this lithium. So, here I am, okay, going through all this type of stuff. I am a family man, have 9 children, and my wife dies of cancer. I am in a mess. I can no longer work, even though I had a successful thing. And I was wondering one time, how successful was I? And it just came to me about a month and a half ago. Oh, you'd fall over of how much money one person was making as a salary, not as an investor, but as a salary. It was just embarrassing in some ways. But anyway, so imagine this. You have this fellow that's taken 1,800 milligrams of lithium, and it's actually killing him. His wife just dies. His family, or his wife's family, knowing that I'm ill with his bipolar, then they petition the law to have my children taken away because they don't know what I may do. So I lose the custody of my children. Not because I did anything. It's because I was ill, but there was one other thing. Well, I'll tell you how it happened. I was laying on my floor. I had not lost the custody of my children. I had already lost my wife. I'm physically unable to work because I can't function. I just cannot function. And I get a telephone call early in the morning in Salt Lake City at a lady's home. She gifted me a bedroom where I could stay and had a telephone right there. I would venture to say it was about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and it rings. And I kind of go over and I said, hello? And this is the voice I heard. It was a southern woman's voice. And really, for us guys, I got to tell you, southern voices from women is just really seductive. Like it really is. And so early in the morning, I'm hearing this southern voice, and this is the first thing she said. Is this James Mooney? I says, yes. And then she said, is this James Warren Mooney? And I said, yes. Then she said, welcome home, we have found you. And she ended up telling me that she was Chief Little Dove of the Cox Osceola Indian Reservation of Orange Springs, Florida. And that my grandparents, when I was 3 years old, dedicated me to the medicine. I had no idea. And guess what I immediately said when I hung up the phone? Linda Stone asked me, because I was talking to the fellow, and excuse me for my language, but when Linda asked me, well, who was that you were talking to? And I said, some bullshit artist. And she says she knows me, not because she knew me personally, because her tribal chief, who happened to be her father before she took over, had visitors to the green corn ceremony. How many people know what the green corn ceremony is? Okay, do. Green corn ceremony is what the Native American of the eastern tribes, mostly Cherokee, Choctaw, Creek, have once a year. And that's where they come in and forgive one another, and they tell stories about what had happened to each other, and all these kinds of things. And quite often, it's a giveaway. Native American people, most people don't know this. Matter of fact, one of the first things they actually made outlawed to was a ceremony called the potlatch ceremony. Anybody know what that is? It's so cool. The potlatch ceremony is where the community of Indians would come together once a year and give everything away. Yeah, their homes, their horses, everything. They put them in the center of their village or their clan, and they just give it away. And of course, nobody's going to go because because you're giving up your home. Well, can I have yours? Yeah, it's just the way it is. There's because it keeps us. See, what I wanted to do is sit in a circle, because there's no head in a circle. That is the culture. That is who we are. And anyway, my people, because a good portion of my people escaped off of the Trail of Tears, and I happen to be a direct descendant of Osceola. Anybody ever hear of Osceola? Okay, I am a direct descendant of his black or escaped slave wife. All right? And so I don't know any of this stuff. And then this woman tells me this. But because of the Seminoles, how many know anything about the unconquerable Seminoles? Okay? My particular clan, the Oklahoma clan of Seminole Indians, is who the State University of Florida, their, what is it called? What? Mascot is the unconquerable Seminoles. It is about our tribe, which is only less than 35 minutes away from the university. Why are we called the unconquerable Seminoles? Because we never submitted to the United States government. Nor were we killed off. Nor were our people totally transported from our lands into Oklahoma. We only had 33 people left. What I was originally going to talk about today, I wasn't going to talk about what I just got through doing. I was going to tell you about courage. That's what I was going to base it on. And that there's all types of courage. And it isn't just for a certain individual. It's for all of us. I am so glad I came here. I was motivated when they asked me, you can just be here at 4 o'clock. That's when I was supposed to stop. And I was impressed. I said, is it okay if I happen to come earlier so I could get the feel of what is going on here? And he said, well, yeah, he would. Well, now I know why I wanted to. I do not have to give a talk about courage with these people, with you people. You exhibit courage. It reeks out of every cell of your being. To have a gay man in the state of Utah to stand up for who he is, it just brings tears to my eyes. To see this family, to stand up, just every ounce of my being says, hallelujah. Because that's what's going to take for you to take advantage of what I really have to say here today. I want to talk a little bit about courage, because that's what I did plan on doing. And I want to share with you that courage and the feeling of when you know you're in the presence of courage is a person in the service of other human beings. Why do you think this family is here? They're already living their life. But they want to show it is okay to live your life with courage and say, I'm not ashamed that I'm gay. I'm not ashamed that I live a polygamous life. I'm not ashamed I'm an Indian. I'm not ashamed of these particular things. It's incredible. The sacrifices. And I'm going to start with my people. Osceola was a renowned war chief. Not many people know it. He was also a medicine man. His name, Osceola. Ossie is actually the name for the Indian name for the black drink. Anybody ever hear of black drink? Black drink is the medicine that the Seminoles or the Eastern tribes take as it purges all the bad things out of your system. You go from both ways, okay? And usually when you take the black drink, you stand in a stream for reasons that everything's going to be washed away, okay? Because you vomit. And it's amazing, so many Native American medicines feel it's bad because, or not feel it's bad, but the reason there are the medicines is because they eliminate the impurities out of your system and your spirit. And so people look at that badly. And so the word Aussie comes from the drink, okay? And then when you're in the stream or when you're taking it, you go, yeah! So Osceola is the great crier of our medicine. Osceola. That's how you know he's a medicine man. Not many people know that. Okay? One of the major reasons Osceola was a tremendous and admired Native American leader that was known more so in Europe than any other Native American at that particular time, up until 1880, he was recognized as the American Native leader. One of the reasons that he was so respected, it wasn't necessarily because he was ferocious, because he was a ferocious, violent warrior. But he had something going for him that at that time was just unheard of. He would never kill a woman or a child. And he was open. And he would say, we're at war with the United States Army, not with women and children. Totally contrary with the Haitians that would take the women and devour them, and take the children and put them on stakes. That's what he fought against, but he would not retaliate in the same manner. Courage. When I first understood there was such a thing as courage. How many people know and feel that there is nothing there's nothing more you want to go up against than a mother protecting her children? Is that true? It's almost in everything in the animal kingdom. Those women, man, you're threatening their child, boy, you're taking on something big. How many people have been to Florida, in the Everglades? Yeah. Okay. When I first went to my first green corn ceremony, my tribal chief, who was a woman, picked me up from the airport with her husband. And I got to tell you, she had a sweet southern voice, but I'm telling you, she was also somebody you never wanted to mess with. Anyway, now we're driving from the airport, Gainesville, and we get almost to our point where we're ready to get to the tribe. And just as we're entering, she told her husband, in no uncertain terms, stop the car. They're in a van. And she says, James, get out of the car. Okay. And then she said, follow me. And just dutiful, because I know, there's moccasins, there's crocodiles, there's cottonmouths, and they even got plants that they used to strap soldiers to, and they come back in about 3 or 4 days and they're dead because the plants have so much acid in them, it just eats them alive. It was just horrible. Well, anyway, so she says, follow me, and boy, I'm right on her tail. Because you cannot, I don't know if you've been to Florida, in the Everglades, you can be right here, where I am, and you could be right here, and you would never know I was right there. The foliage is so thick. How many people can testify to that that's been to Florida? Am I right? Okay. Well, there was a $500 bounty on every Seminole head that the United States Army would receive or give. You bring them a Seminole head, you got $500. If they captured a family or a tribe, or they overran a tribe, they brutalized the women. They devoured them. They took the children and put them on stakes. This is no joke. This is no joke. But to get to the point of courage that women have, and that it's courage in my mind is always you stand up, not only for yourself, but you're standing up for everybody else that follows you. I just want you to imagine this. Just imagine it. You're with a group of children, mothers, and elders, and you're being hunted by these people that will massacre you if you're found. So what are you going to do when you have the United States Army soldiers within 2 or 3 feet, but they can't see you, and you happen to be a mother with a newborn baby, and you know if that baby cries out, what's in store? So these mothers would smother their babies to their breasts so they wouldn't cry out. That's courage. And the pain that mother had to live with, knowing that she smothered her child to save the village. I don't know of anything stronger of courage than that. You have these individuals here standing up. Because what did he say? We're not by ourselves. There's other people that are living in fear for living their principles of their life. I mean, when I first was confronted with this, and I didn't really understand a lot of things, people are being prosecuted for laying claim to their sexual activities when so many people, and can be thrown in jail on saying, I am going to stay with this woman and raise these children, and you're getting thrown in jail for that? What sense does that make? It makes no sense. But that's the way it is. Now, let me back up a little bit more. Okay? As I told you, I'm a Seminole medicine man. Okay? I'm very well trained in most of the medicines that people are extremely afraid of. Okay? So, now we're getting to what I was going to talk about. But changed it so that it would be compatible, not compatible, but appreciated by this group. Because I'm changing. I wanted to be at service. When I realized I was a medicine man, not only when I told my chief that I was so sick, she said they have a medicine out there in southern Utah, or in Utah, that'll probably cure your bipolar manic depressive. And I said, well, what is it? She says, it's peyote. And I said, whoa, okay. So I immediately went to the library, pulled out every book I could possibly find on peyote, and spent a full day in the library studying about this peyote. And in one of the books, and I can still remember, it had silver lettering on it, on a black cover, and it just said peyote. That's all it said. And I started reading it. I had about 20 books. And I spent the entire day. And I ran across this guy, his name was Clifford Jake, who happened to be a Bannock Paiute Shoshone medicine man. Most renowned. And one of the things in there I thought was so comical was that a DEA agent, undercover, tried to prosecute him. And he actually came back later, as the book stated, to Clifford and apologized for talking with him and being with him with alternative motives, which he was really trying to arrest him. Well, this man, in a matter of 2 months, with peyote, eliminated my addiction to lithium, where I had been hospitalized no less than 7 times, spent I can't say hundreds of thousands of dollars, but a lot of money to overcome this disease. In a matter of a few months, this man eliminated with the Native American Church. So I went to him and I said, Clifford, you got to take this to the white man. And he looked at me. He says, no. Well, why not? And he says, I hate those people. And I said, this disease that you helped me cure is one of the fundamental diseases, and found out over 70% of the people that are incarcerated are diagnosed with bipolar or some kind of degree. And I said, they need this. They need some help. I mean, you've got the answers. And he says, I don't care. They deserve to live in that pain of what they've done to us. And so I'm not going to take that medicine to them. And he said, James, besides, if I took that medicine to them, my other brothers in the medicine would kill me. And he said, if you take the medicine to the white man, This is what will happen, James. The Indians will try to kill you, and the white man will throw you in his jails. And then he took the next 10 years of my life to teach me how to do the medicine, work the medicine, so I could take it to the white man. Had another, and this is something I really want to talk about. How many people have ever heard of Wounded Knee, December the 30th, 1890? Got it. Okay, I have these people, the Indians, wanting to kill me. I mean, wanting to kill me. How many threats I had on my life was probably no less than 3. All 3 of them were reported. All of them were acted upon, except for one. And wasn't doing any good. So I called somebody that knew a lot about Native American medicine people and the medicine people around the world. His name was a fellow by the name of Salvador Johnson. And he was a distributor of peyote, federally recognized, licensed, and state license of Texas to distribute peyote. So he knew all the medicine people. I called him and I said, they're all wanting to kill me, man. And he says, you need a blessing from the most powerful peyote medicine man, they call him road man, in the world today. I said, cool. So I said, what's his name? He says, Leslie Fulbo. Where does he live? South Dakota, Rosebud Reservation. So I said, I'm leaving. And I did. I left the next morning. I took off. Took a friend with me. Went up to Rosebud. Found out he wasn't there. He was in the hospital in Rapid City. So another 3 hours drive. I go walking in to this hotel or this hospital room, and I walk up to the room. He knows nothing about me. I walk up to the door of the hospital. There's many people sitting in that room with his family, other Native Americans, and he's in the bed. And I'll never forget, he looked up at me and he said, you need my help. I said, yeah, I sure do. I mean, it was okay for people to threaten to kill me. But then when they threatened to kill my entire family, that really got my attention. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm wrecking your system here. I feel funny about having something separating me. And that's the reason I don't like to be there. But anyway, so I go up there, and he looks at me and he says, I can see you need my help. I says, yes, I do. And so I brought about 100 peyote buttons in a bag, and I handed it to him. And when I handed it to him, he put it to his heart and started sobbing in gratitude. Started sobbing in gratitude. Now, you told me you knew about Wounded Knee massacre. Am I right? What happened at Wounded Knee?
I remember learning about it in school, but now with the mic, it's all gone. I'm sorry.
Was anybody killed?
Yes.
Okay. How many people were killed there? Anybody have any idea? Over 350 people murdered, women and children. Do you know why they were murdered and what brought them together? They were going to pray They came for a ceremony to pray. And that ceremony, they practiced sweat lodges. They practiced peyote. They practiced the ghost dance, which really isn't the name of it. It's called the spirit dance. And you know what the spirit dance really is? It is a millennium ceremony. Being grateful of what is going on today and that our ancestors are with us forever. It is a thankful, grateful ceremony showing appreciation for all of our lives. And the United States government sanctioned the murdering of these people for gathering together to pray and to be in gratitude. That's what it was about. They opened up Hotchkiss machine guns, chopped the women to pieces and children. It wasn't safe to practice your medicines. It wasn't safe to truly exercise your free agency. It wasn't safe to pray to God in a manner that was not accepted to the Christian movement at that particular time. So, I'm confronted with this thing. I'm confronted that here I am taking this medicine that truly worked. Okay, so I ask myself, how can I see this crevice, this Grand Canyon of separation of cultures. And I said, how can I bridge that? So I said, peyote is what everybody is talking about, but it really isn't about the peyote. It's about this culture is what everybody's against. It's not peyote. It's not our ceremony. It's our culture. Because guess what? In our culture, the American Native culture has absolutely no issues. As a matter of fact, it enhances polygamy. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? It doesn't hide from it. It says, wonderful, the man is sticking around to take care of his responsibilities. So it is actually strengthening the family, strengthening the abilities. And so, what the laws and the things about coming against the Native American culture had nothing to do with peyote. Had to do with stopping the culture. So, I said, okay, I want to bridge this thing. So I had a police officer come up to me when I was at church. I was a Mormon at that time. And I had this cop come up to me, and his name was Kim Segmiller. All right? And he says, you know, James, because of you and who you are and the people you associate and work with, you could really be helpful in us being able to curb the drug industry here in Washington County. And I said, what are you asking me? I said, are you asking me to be an undercover guy? He says, yeah. And he says, do you know how valuable you will be, James? I said, no, I have no idea. He says, if I was a cop, I can't go undercover like you could as a private citizen. I don't understand what you mean. He says, I cannot smoke marijuana with anybody. I said, I don't smoke marijuana. He said, it doesn't make any difference. You know the people that do. And they trust you. I said, well, I still don't quite understand what you want me to do. He says, you be undercover. There's three kinds of undercover people. How many people know? One is a cop, okay, that goes undercover. Two is a CI, confidential informant, person that has been busted, and then he ends up wanting to have a plea bargain, and he ends up turning over evidence. But the most devastating and the most effective of all the other country people are private citizens that are committed to do something. Because I don't have to abide by the laws of a police officer. And I don't have a conviction or somebody trying to come after me, or I'm turning evidence, because I'm doing it because a private citizen doing undercover work is the most powerful tool that there is, because he's doing it totally in service. I worked 7 years. There's only one person that knew me. It was Ken Segmiller. And I was responsible over 7 years from what was told to me and what is reported. And as a matter of fact, Governor L.E.A.P awarded me the Citizen of the Year award in 1990, something like that, 91, 92. No, it was 93. Because I took down more people over the 7 years than all the other undercover and CI agents put together. And on the streets, they knew me. They knew my name, my code name. It was called Jim. And when I finally got my police certification and went to work with the prison system, the Jim Gillespie. Anybody know Jim? Well, Jim Gillespie, at one period of time, he was in charge of the entire drug task force in the state of Utah. When I met him, he was handing out diplomas to the graduating classes of the police academy. And as he handed me my diploma, he looked down to me and he says, he was black. And just before that, he says, there's only two men in color here. That's James and myself. He's black and I'm Indian. And I'm also a black Seminole. So we're all together. But when he handed me my diploma, he says, it's really nice to finally meet Jim. That was my code name. Nobody knew who I was but one guy. Now, why did I stop? Because I was a vengeance. Man, if you were smoking dope or you were selling, you were going to go down, man. Even my wife that I'm married to, when I first met her, I checked her out to see if she was dealing dope or something. And she still will not let me forget that. Most women would they? Well, so what happened? Why did I change? First of all, I got into it thinking this would be helpful on making a bridge. Here you have an Indian that's practicing peyote and has no ill feelings about certain things. And so a service to the community, being undercover, I thought would be the way to do it. Oh my gosh, did I get an education. There's 3 reasons I stopped being an undercover person. 3 reasons. And this is really important for you. Being a libertarian. The first real indication that I realized what I was doing was making things worse. I had a couple, a young couple, CIs, inside a home. They were wired. And I could hear them. I could hear everything that was going on. And all of a sudden, I hear this little boy cry out to his mother. And I know I'm taking that little boy's parents away for 10 years. And something came over me and I said, holy hell, I am part of the problem here. I'm not a solution. Because I happen to believe the family is the strongest unit known to any civilized community. And here I am, undermining it. That wasn't it, though. I mean, I was so ingrained on taking down these evil drug dealers, you have no idea. I'm going to take a little bit out of order, but I was so successful, undercover. Kim had me drive up to Utah, or up to Salt Lake City, to be with the DEA, the state, because I was only basically working for Washington County's task force. But because of the successes that I was having, they wanted to recruit me. So, I don't know how you can imagine this, but I lived 7 years with the thought that sometime I'm going to open up my door when it's knocked, and I'm going to eat a 12-gauge shotgun because my cover's been blown. That's a true story. You think that's not true? Let me tell you, that's exactly what you fear. And I felt that the only thing that was keeping me safe was that there was only one person that knew who I was, and that was Kim Sycamore. And then one day Kim says, you know, James, everybody knows who you are by your code name, and they really want to meet you. And I said, what do you think, Kim? I mean, you're the guy that's kept me safe all this time. And he says, well, I think it would be a good thing. So we drove all the way from Washington County, he in one car, me in another car, and we met one of these buildings in right off of I-15, and met with all of the top federal and state agents. And I remember going in that room, and they're telling me, you know, we could really start paying you some money. After they asked, can I get into this? I said, no problem. How about this? I said, no problems. How about this? I said, no problems. And they're just drooling. They say, you know, if you would come under Kim, or if you would leave Kim and come with us, you could make thousands and thousands of money, because when on the people that you take down, you'll get a certain percentage of all the properties. Yeah. So I walked out, and Kim and I said we'd meet someplace before we went back down to southern Utah, and it was over there in West Valley. And Kim was already there, and I remember getting out of my car, and Kim looked at me, didn't say a word, and he looked at me and he says, James, it's over, isn't it? I says, that's absolutely, man. The only reason I'm still alive, because you were the only one that I knew, or that knew who I was. Now, I got 6 others. I'm a dead man. He says, yeah. Now, I took this thing out of turn, okay? Because that was the final decision. Well, that wasn't the ultimate final decision, but that was basically the major decision why I stopped being undercover. This was what broke the camel's back. I was working, there's a very exclusive community, and I feel a little embarrassed about saying it, but it's just the truth. How many people know about the airport community in Washington County, where they have airplane hangars like we have garages? It's in Hurricane, right? Okay. At one time, that was the basic distributing center of all the drugs into Utah. Guess who had them by the short hairs? Me. I got in there, and I got the whole thing down. We're ready to go ahead and bust this organization. We're going to bust it. I got him cold. So Kim and I are meeting in this one place out in the boonies. And when he gets out of the car, I knew there's something wrong. He walked up to me and he said to me, "It's off." I said, "What are you talking about?" "It's off, James." I said, "What are you talking about?" "This bust. We can't do it." "What?" I mean, some people do know me, and there is a side of me that's really kind of not nice. And when he told me that we can't take these people down, I went berserk on him. And I said, what is going on? What's wrong? We've got them every which way. And he said, "I want you to know, of everybody that I had arrested, out of 7 years, not one ever escaped. Not one. I can't even tell you the thousands of people I put in prison." When he said to me, "This is off," and I said, "We got him." He says, "That's the problem, James." I was, "What do you mean what's the problem? That's my job, is to make sure they can't escape." I said, "Yeah, but we got a big problem here." I said, "What do you mean?" "One of the county commissioners, this is their pet project." Do you get this? All I have been doing for Washington County is taking their competition away. That's what broke the camel's back. It has corrupted our entire judicial system. So, but that wasn't no. My wife, after I married her, did not know I was undercover. And I had worked 7 years. So, I had told him, "I'm not going to do anything. I'm done." Told Kim, "I'm not done. Instead, I'm working with the prison system and helping, insisting, and doing whatever I can to get the people I put into prison to get them out." And that's the truth. So I'm working there about 2 months, and I get a phone call from Kim. And he says to me, he says, "James, you're the only one that can take these people down. And it's the head marijuana distributor of the Western United States." And he says, "James, if you take this on, it'll be no less than $100,000. I said, "Well, Kim, you know," see, I think I was making $9 an hour at the prison system, working for the rehabilitative program, or rehabilitative specialist too. I think I was making $9 or $10 or something like that. So that's a lot of money. A lot of money. And I thought about, boy, my wife would sure like that. And so I said, "Kim, I can't give you the answer now. I can't give it to you." So I go back and forth and thinking and talking and saying, "Oh gosh, I can do the same thing I've done for 7 years. I can just go down to, not tell my wife, just saying that I'm going away for something to do with the prison system. Keep gone for a couple of weeks or so." And so I'm going back and forth with this. And I said, "No, I'm not going to play that game with my wife. I'm going to let her know who I am." So I told her. It could be $100,000. How many women know what she said? Yeah, that's right. She said, hell no. You're not going to do that. So that was my last contact. My last contact. So I ended up working with the prison system, and I ended up telling the group of guys and made it known. I stood up in the circle. I set up the most ultimate Native American prison program in the United States at that time. And it was recognized by the governor, Leavitt, at that time. And I stood up in front of those men in that circle, and I admitted that I was undercover. And they all said, we already knew it, James. And they just put their arms around me and just loved me because of the honesty. So, I was hired at the prison system to set up a program that would result in reduction of recidivism. How many people know what recidivism is? Okay? At that time, it was 90%, or 89.7% to be exact. Recidivism, 90% means out of every 1,000 people that are released from prison, within 3 years, 900 of those people will be back in prison. Am I right? That's recidivism. And so I was hired on specifically to set up a program that would eliminate recidivism. In 18 months, this program that I set up dropped the recidivism to less than 30%. Documented. It's the only program in the United States that has proven, documentary, by charging people with the parole officers, the names, the statistics to prove that I could drop recidivism. So, here I have this report. It's quite the talk. An organization, I'm not going to tell you which one it is, who has a prison program that receives in excess of $3 million a year. The leader of it comes into my office and says, James, holy heavens, man, you've got something that's fantastic. Do you really have these figures? And so I showed him the report. He said, holy crap, can I have these? Of course, man, take it. So he takes my figures for the last shot program, takes it to our representatives, our legislature, right up here, and gets another $3.5 million using my figures. That's cool, right? Except guess what? They dismissed my program. Stopped funding my program. And then shortly after, guess what? They fired me. Being an honored governor, being undercover for 7 years, and getting fired because of doing what I was told to do. What? Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. But nevertheless, that's what happened. So I sued them, which I won. Now tell me how many times a person suing the state of Utah, or any state, actually wins. Doesn't happen. So, I go about saying, well, now I don't have a job, and so what am I going to do? Okay, so I had a license, a business license, in the city of Gunnison as a consultant to help people like a counselor does, but I don't need a license as a MSW does or something like that. Well, yeah, anyway, so I had to get a job. Okay, at the same time, I happened to be the vice president of the Native American Church of North America, of Salt Lake City. And I get a letter in their mail, and they tell me that I have got to, or encouraging me, almost a mandate, that anybody that is not a Native American, federally recognized Indian that I have allowed into my circles, I am to have them arrested. What? People coming to me for help, and they get help, and I am to have them arrested? So I called Salvador Johnson. I said, Salvador, will you sell to me peyote if I opened up my own church, Ocklavan Native American Church? And he says, James, I'd sell to you before I would the North American Native American Church. So I developed Ocklavan Native American Church. I was so successful in the year and a half, going from total being broke with not a dime, within a year and a half, 1997 is when I opened it up. By 1999, without asking for any money, anything, I was bringing into our church over $750,000 a year. You want to know why? Because I had these very wealthy people bring me their wives and their sons and daughters, and I was curing them of heroin addiction. And I had one person, because I cured his wife, and when the DEA, I got the actual transcripts, when the DEA was interviewing him, trying to take him down, who I'm not going to say who he is, but I can say he's one of the wealthiest men in Utah. He came to me with his wife and business problems. She was ready to die. And in 3 months, and he testified to the DEA, he saved my wife's life. And one time he asked me to come into his office. I went in his office, did not know why. And he talked to me and told me about his businesses and stuff, which if I told you who it was, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And when I walked out of that office, he said, James, because I did not know why he wanted me there. And he said to me, James, can you show up at my CPA's office tomorrow? Well, sure, I guess. What for? And he says, I want to give you $500,000. And that's what he did. I had numerous of people that wanted to give me money, not because I was asking for it, because I have an edict. I cannot do things for money. And so I was doing really well. This is what we were doing. We bought, with that $500,000, we bought this property in Benjamin. And what we were doing, you're going to love this. We were taking heroin addicts off the street. We were giving mothers that didn't have any children, or that had children, but didn't have a husband, and that were on the street, giving them a place to live. When people were being released from prison, they could come to us. If they needed a place to live, we had temporary shelter, and we got them jobs, got them associated with their churches, whatever it was, and so that they would be functioning. Our success ratio with heroin addicts, are you ready for this? It's almost 90% with heroin addicts. So we're doing all this community work, bought the property, totally owned by the Native American Church, the whole thing. In 1999, at the latter part of the month, or latter part of the year, SWAT team raided us. And then a month later, before we could get a federal injunction set up, matter of fact, the day after, they arrested my wife and I with life imprisonment, to put us in prison for the rest of our lives. Yeah. So you ask yourself, what in the world is this culture about? You talk about violation of our constitutional rights, where they went in. I mean, what would have happened if in Texas somebody went into a temple, if they had a temple, a Mormon temple, and arrested the president of that church, of that temple, and his counselors with life imprisonment on them? What would happen? It would have been all over the place. Not with me. I'm the drug dealer. My children would go to school, come home crying because their parents or the teachers would say, this is what happens to drug dealers. They would show our pictures on the TV set, showing the things, and with my kids in there saying, this is what we do to drug dealers. We had to move our kids out of jail, out of that school district. And one of their daughters just quit school altogether. Couldn't take it. So being a cop, I know the game. One of the games we have, the reason they really arrested my wife was what we call hostage. Anybody know what a hostage is? A marriage sure does, yeah. Is that you put a life sentence on my wife, and then goes to the band and says, we will drop all charges if you plea bargain to such and such. It came to me 3 times. Every time I took it to my wife, I'd say, honey, everything will be dismissed from you. You won't be prosecuted or nothing. And guess what she said? We haven't done anything wrong. So she wouldn't plea bargain, which was Kay Bryson's nightmare, and Mark Shirtliff's, because we would not plea bargain. So my attorney, and this is what the problem is right now, my attorney, who knew the system, went ahead and filed an immediate dismissal of this case on First Amendment. I mean, it's the biggest violations that there is. So, my wife and I, with our attorney, filed for a dismissal. It went to the 4th District Court judge, Judge Stott, and he refused to honor it. However, he encouraged us to appeal it to the Utah Supreme Court with his blessings. And I found out why he ruled against it. It wasn't because he didn't want to. Because the political aspect was too overbearing for him to make that decision. So he sent it up to the Utah Supreme Court. Got to the Utah Supreme Court. Now, this is what most people don't know. It was the attempt of the state of Utah to outlaw the Native American church. That was the real intent. It wasn't about James Mooney. Had nothing to do with really James Mooney, other than the fact that I would allow white people into my ceremonies. It's like a Roman Catholic allowing somebody into their church that's not a member or not born in Rome. What's that about? I mean, that's idiotic. Well, anyway, so we go to the Utah Supreme Court, and the first thing out of Chief Justice Durham's mouth, as my attorney stands up, And she says who the people that are being indicted, James Mooney, Linda Mooney, and Oklahoma Native American Church. And Chief Justice Durham looks down, and it's on video, to my attorney and says, are we to believe this is an attempt to prosecute a church which would initially outlaw? And my attorney said, yes, it is. It was downhill for Shurtleff from then on. The ruling came out unanimously in our favor. Do you know what the state of Utah did? They went to the United States attorneys and lied to them. Omitted from giving what is it called? Exculpatory evidence. Omitted all of that. Went and encouraged the U.S. Attorney's Office to go to a grand jury to have, underneath the Patriot Act, to pull off indictments that would put my wife and I in prison for the rest of our lives under the Patriot Act, where only hearsay can be received. My attorneys, which were federally recognized attorney, or federal defender's office up here in Salt Lake City, for some reason were granted unlimited funds to protect me. And so what they did, the whole charges had nothing to do with peyote. It had to do, the federal was saying I was a fraud. I wasn't a real Indian. I didn't have a lick of Indian blood in me. I mean, what's that got to do with religion? I mean, I have no idea. But nevertheless, that's what they were doing. So, my attorneys spent 6 months traveling to graveyards, going back to Florida, talking to my tribal government, tribal leaders, went to Texas. I mean, I was told by my attorneys that the state of Utah has conned the United States citizens and the state of Utah citizens to spend more than, get this, $35 million to take me down. And they had the instructions, do whatever it takes. Right to lying, have DEA agents lie in a federal court hearing. Now, I hope you're asking yourself, why in the world would they spend so much time on somebody like this? $35 million. Having the Attorney General lie to the U.S. attorneys in the grand jury. Why would somebody do that? What forces are so threatened to do these kinds of things? Well, my attorneys, after 6 months, federal attorneys, went around all these different places and found out that Shurtleff did lie, withheld exculpatory evidence, DEA agents lied in the federal government, committing perjury, proved that there was suborned perjury all over the place, all based on lies. And so when they took that information and presented it to the prosecuting attorney, guess what they said? Holy hell, we're screwed. We can't have all this information to an evidential hearing that was scheduled within 3 weeks, because then it'll be part of court record. So guess what? For the first time in the history of our judicial system of the United States, mind you, the history, the first time in the history of our judicial system, all charges were dropped off my wife and I prior to that evidential hearing, so it would not become court records. Okay. Why they put so much onto me, good people, is for one reason and one reason only. Is to stop the Native American church, which is actually the Native American culture, from receiving its constitutional rights. So you have a marijuana kid that has been spending 3 months and 6 months in jail simply because of resin. And I know of one that which just tears me apart, a young, prosperous young kid studying to be a lawyer, straight A person, got stopped with resin, ended up going to jail. About 6 months after he got out of jail, dropped out of school and committed suicide. That's nonsense, guys. That is evil. Straight out evil. If you are a Native American member, and you can show it, and if you're in a polygamous environment, and you are utilizing cannabis, they can't touch you. It's up to the attorneys now. All they have to do, when somebody has a card and proven that they're a Native American church, they're a member of it, they cannot touch you on those kinds of laws. They cannot. But you have to have a judicial system which is corrupt. Right on down to every attorney, because when some guy, and he has a card, he can prove that he's a Native American church, guess all he has to do is file for a petition to dismiss. That's all it takes. But can you get an attorney in Utah to do that? No. Even though they don't. And the reason for it is simply one reason, and one reason only, is because of the money. Every plea bargain they get money. Every person they put in prison, they get money. So they do not want the prisons out, because every bed means another $35,000. So I'm the enemy when I'm getting people not to come back to prison. And I'm an enemy keeping people from having drugs and being addicted to drugs. So the campaign that I hope that you're doing, and realizing that every one of the issues that you're combating can be resolved simply by having the government not be against anything, but be for something. Be actually for something. Give the Native American culture its constitutional rights, and every one of these problems that you've been talking about is over. So God bless you. Thank you.
Okay, so did you guys have fun today? We wanted to do something a little bit different, than what we've done in the past, because I think, libertarians are smart. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice after all the talking. Libertarians are very smart, but that smartness oftentimes finds us playing Dungeons and Dragons and becoming computer programmers and things of that nature. I think what's important is for us to do this and share parts of who we are. The people who call themselves libertarian, it's a big, big tent. You've heard all kinds of different people. You're here. Every single person has their own story, why liberty is important to them, and how the state is really messing people's lives up in a big way, and it's just because people accept it. So I appreciate and I applaud not only our speakers, not only our executive committee, our outreach coordinator, Kenny and crew. Well, not Ken Larson, but Ken Larson, you could take some if you want. But I'm talking Kenny Barlow, Gary Johnson, everybody, and all of you guys for coming out here. And exactly what James Mooney was talking about courage. And it's simple. It's really all it is as a libertarian is it's language. It's just sharing these stories and talking and getting people excited at whatever you can do. The public speakers were talking to you guys, but you got you go home and you have Christmas or Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, you can talk to your family and practice getting good at persuading people to the cause of liberty. It is one of the most important things out there. I mean, speaking to the umbrella, I think real quick and then we'll close, you know, James Mooney reminds me that in 1988 we had two very interesting Libertarian presidential candidates. And it speaks to how awesome this party is, this philosophy as well. 1988, it was Ron Paul and Russell Means. If you don't know Russell Means, Google him, okay? But he's a Native American, he's an activist. But that's what is so awesome about this party. They both found their way on similar principles. They have completely different lifestyles, different aims in life, whatever. But they understand this uniting principle about just letting people be. So, you know, if you guys would please, in your own efforts, largely networking, the great thing we have right now, at least as long as we can keep finding SOPA and PIPA and all these other acronyms that keep coming about the internet, is networking. So find us on Facebook. You can go to the UtahLP.org website. All, you know, our Facebook, our Twitter, all that kind of stuff is there. And then get your friends to do it, and then get your friends to do the same to their friends. That's how we're going to do this. We've got to hit a critical mass. There's just no other way. Right? For my radio show, I opened up the second hour with a Doors song. And Jim Morrison says, they've got the guns, but we've got the numbers. But the only way the numbers work out for us is if we're all together. I mean, that's Gandhi was inspired by a hardcore libertarian, Henry David Thoreau. He wrote Civil Disobedience, inspired Gandhi. Let's get back to that. But that requires liberty and responsibility are two sides of the same coin, guys. Okay? So I want to thank you guys all. And then, Mark, did you...
I was going to say, this video is going to be available on YouTube, so people are set up here for that.
Yeah, we're going to be putting it up. So if you find us on Facebook, that's probably the best thing. But we also have a newsletter. We have a meetup.com group. We have, I'm not sure if we have a YouTube page, but I put up stuff.
Post the links.
Okay, yeah, and then you've got them. So
I can make a YouTube page too.
good. So please, let's grow this so that next year that we have to get a bigger venue, you know? And we'll try to do it so that the Salt Lake City Marathon's not going on too at the same time. Yes, sir, yes.
I'd just like to share with you as a group, okay, your position on the war on drugs. Every time I've been in business and it's successful, you pick one thing and you focus on that one thing, and it's like an arrowhead to an arrow. You get that one thing through, and guess what? You bring in the whole shaft. And I'm saying to you, the solution to the war on drugs is honoring the American Native culture. And if you, as a libertarian, as a group of people, to help you be successful, one is you're for something. Being against, it's like a Mother Teresa. If you're for something, I'm there. If you're against something, against the war or something, I'm not going to be there. But if you're for something, and like in this case, I'm being very self-sustaining, is if you say, it is time for the Native American people to receive their full constitutional rights, you will resolve these things. And if you put it on the war on drugs, because it's very simple, okay? We already have court cases where marijuana, for instance, they can't prosecute. But we can't get these the attorneys, especially in Utah, to file for a motion to dismiss.
Now, hold on just a second, Mr. Mooney, and please continue in a moment. I just want to wrap this up, and then I'm going to open it up. If you guys want to hang out, we've got the room till 7. So literally you can hang out. What I would ask is anybody, please, so I'm not stuck doing it all by myself, anybody want to help clean up or just carry a few things, it's really not a lot, but it would help out a lot. So again, thank you everybody. Thank you to all you guys for coming out. And please, hopefully next year we can double or triple the size of this thing. And please hang out. Like I said, we got it till 7. So thank you.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that. okay, if you focus on one thing, and this is a surefire one, because it is absolutely bulletproof. They cannot touch a Native American person if they're a member of a Native American church. Okay?